Israel continues to act with impunity in its genocidal war on the people of Gaza. Over 30,000 Palestinians have now been killed. Millions of Palestinian refugees in Rafah now face the same nightmare as those massacred in Gaza City and Khan Yunis before the eyes of the world. Over 500,000 people face famine according to the United Nations. The decline in the population's nutrition status is at a globally unprecedented rate. Children in Gaza are being starved at the fastest rate that the world has ever recorded, with 1 in 6 children under 2 years in northern Gaza now acutely malnourished. What Israel is doing on a daily basis is barbaric. The latest cold-blooded massacre of civilians in Nabsley Square who were gathering flour from aid trucks has seen dozens of civilians killed and hundreds more wounded. Taoiseach, the state that is responsible for that and countless other massacres enjoys the most preferential diplomatic, economic and trading relationship with the EU of virtually any non-European country. These arrangements are worth billions of euro each year to an Israeli regime that is literally starving children to death and attacking civilians in the most relentless, brutal manner. You previously failed to support motions calling on Ireland to intervene in the case against Israel at the International Court of Justice brought by South Africa. Can I ask you, do you accept that what is happening in Gaza is genocide? Because the evidence is crystal clear. The international community has a responsibility to end the barbarity that we are witnessing in Gaza, and Ireland, of course, has a role to play. We must insist on the adherence to international law, and we must insist on consequences for those in gross violation of that international law. Israel cannot be treated as a normal state while it engages in such barbarity. The Taoiseach co-signed a letter calling for the suspension of the EU-Israel Association Agreement. That was the correct, albeit belated, thing to do. The failure of the EU to take any meaningful sanction against Israel has undermined Europe's credibility in the world as a voice for peace and conflict resolution. What else are you going to do to force the EU to take action, Taoiseach? And what action are you going to take? Sinn Féin's illegal Israeli settlements divestment bill was read for a second time recently after you had delayed its passage by 9 months. The bill, brought forward by Deputy John Brady, simply ensures that Irish taxpayers' monies cannot be invested in companies that profit from Israel's illegal occupation. Will you now commit to the House to ensuring that this becomes law without delay? And Taoiseach, will you recognise the state of Palestine? No more excuses. Israel is attempting to bomb Palestine out of existence. If the world doesn't take a stand, there will be no Palestine left to recognise. So can I ask you, will you at long last simply do what international law requires of us all and officially acknowledge that the Palestinian people are entitled to their state, to their freedom and to a future free from Israeli occupation, apartheid and oppression? Will you, on our behalf, on behalf of all the people of Ireland, recognise the state of Palestine?
Deputy Carthy,
Caithfidh mé rá gur droscéil ar fad atá le feiscint I Gaza agus tá gach aine sa tuig seo is do creite an méid atá oilinta acu agus caithfidh míad gach aon iireacht a dhéanamh chun an cogadh seo a stoppa agus tá míadna sa tír seo ag déanamh gach iireacht agus tá sé sin sa léir ón méid atá déanta go go dtí seo. Ó thaobh cuasaí políochta de, ó thaobh cuasaí airgeadiste, ó thaobh an cáir agus an tacaíocht atá tugatha going go dtí ionradh agus a lán comhlachtaí eile atá cumasach ó thaobh cáir agus tacaíocht do chóirt ó cuasaí bia sláinte I dtacais agus mar sin de. Could I say at the outset that Ireland has comprehensively stood up on this issue and is recognised across the world as having a very distinctive, robust position in relation to the war on Gaza, being one of the first in the European Union to call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, supporting UN resolutions on successive occasions, being one of the first in Europe, again, to lead in respect of supporting Arab Peace Initiative resolutions at the UN. And we've used every political, financial, diplomatic measures that we possibly can, and humanitarian, to help the people of Gaza and help the people of Palestine more generally in terms of the unacceptable and extraordinary situation in terms of the level of hunger, famine and death and destruction that has visited people of Gaza. We are very clear on that. Only the week before last, the Attorney General of this country was before the International Court of Justice in respect of the United Nations, seeking UN General Assembly, seeking an advisory opinion in respect of the legality of Israel's occupation in Palestine. And that was long before the war, Deputy. And I would have overseen and cleared the robust written legal submission that we made to the court last July. And that's followed up by the oral participation of the Attorney General. And I say that because it demonstrates that Ireland takes legal cases seriously. And you kind of used language that's not quite accurate or correct. You said we failed to intervene. We have not failed to intervene in any case. And you know that deep down, but you're just playing politics again, unfortunately, with it and seeking to divide the House and trying to sort of create this wedge issue as if you're more virtuous than anybody else. And I would respectfully suggest to you, you have a role too. You've been too silent in the United States. I've seen no effort of Sinn Féin going to the United States or on your fora or your Twitter platforms and your social media platforms in the United States. No, you've been very vocal on other issues, but on this you've been extraordinarily silent on the Palestinian question in the United States. I've gone to Washington. I've spoken to senators and I've spoken to some of your friends who challenge me about Ireland's position in terms of Israel and Palestine. I actually suggested to one or two they should talk to you in terms of these issues. And I make that serious because you're having a cut at the government all of the time and making sort of inaccurate statements on this. And we shouldn't be doing that. Because the International Court of Justice on the Genocidal Convention, you know our position on that. South Africa itself has not filed a memorial on South Africa on that case yet. Haven't filed it. They will probably, 2 to 3 months, they'll have it ready. We're working on it, and our legal team is working on it. That's the official position. We need hostages released. We need this war to stop. There can be no incursion into Rafah. We have been one of the first out to say stop pausing aid to UNRWA. And we've come up with a 20 million allocation early this year, some weeks ago, to demonstrate our clear focus on relieving the humanitarian crisis that Gazans are facing, unquestionably, Deputy. There's no one in this House is not appalled or abhorred by what's happening to the people of Gaza. It is wrong, I condemn it, and I've called for it to stop, and to stop now.
Deputy Carthy.
Just to be absolutely clear, Sinn Féin take every opportunity with every individual and state of influence to call for an end to Israeli oppression of the people of Palestine. I asked you a number of questions, you didn't answer a single one of them. I've acknowledged the positive moves on the part of government, including the Attorney General's appearance at the ICJ in respect of the advisory opinion. And if you listen to the words of what the Attorney General said on behalf of the people of Ireland, the next logical question that will be asked by any right-thinking person is, well, what are you going to do about it? One of the questions I asked you is in respect of recognising the state of Palestine. Everybody says there needs to be a two-state solution. Well, currently we have 2 states, one of whom not only is officially recognised and enjoys a diplomatic relationship, but also enjoys preferential trading, economic, financial arrangements with the Western world. The other state faces annihilation, and we haven't officially recognised it, despite the fact that this House has voted to do so, that the upper House has voted to do so, and that the overwhelming majority of the Irish people want the state of Palestine to be recognised. Your answer is always, we're waiting for somebody else to join us. But I am asking you, Taoiseach, on all of our behalf, show leadership and set a date that Ireland will officially recognise the state of Palestine, and then encourage others to join us in doing so.
Ireland's position is well recognised. If you talk to any Arab nation, they appreciate the Irish position in respect of Palestine. On the question of recognition, it's not about waiting around. It's about deploying that in the most optimal way possible for the people of Palestine. And what do I mean by that? The Arab states currently are very close to concluding a peace initiative, which they're briefing America and the European Union, and which we've been briefed on, which would have a number of dimensions to it. Clearly, an immediate ceasefire, but also a security dimension in respect of the longer-term sustainable security situation in terms of Israel and Gaza and the West Bank, but also then normalisation between Arab states and Israel, and as part of that then a Palestinian administration running Gaza and West Bank together. At that moment, if such an initiative emerges, our view is, correctly, and I think the Arab nations agree with this, that if we then can, with a number of EU member states, move at that particular moment to say, now is the time to recognise, as part of that pathway to political talks, to a political track, to a two-state solution,
Thank you,
and to recognize. There's no issue in Ireland in terms of recognition, but I think it does merit consideration at least, and I would put it to you. Any sensible person watching it would say, let's use it in the most optimal way possible for the benefit of the Palestinian people. And that moment is not too far away.
Deputy